One sunny afternoon, Jesus and his disciples were walking along the hills by the Sea of Galilee. Jesus had been healing the sick, helping the poor, and teaching about God's love. People followed him everywhere. They wanted to hear more. They wanted to see more. They just didn't want to leave his side. And so, as he walked up a grassy hill, a crowd began to gather. Then more people came, and more, until there were thousands of people sitting on the grass, listening quietly. Mothers held their babies. Children sat crisscrossed on the ground. Fathers leaned in to hear every word. The sun was high in the sky, and still, no one wanted to leave. Jesus looked around at the crowd. There were so many faces, so many hearts, and now so many growling stomachs. He turned to his disciple Philip and asked, "Where can we buy food for all these people?" Philip's eyes widened. "Buy food? Lord, even if we worked for months, we couldn't buy enough bread for this big crowd." Jesus smiled gently. He already knew what he was going to do, but he wanted his disciples to see what faith could do. The disciples walked through the crowd. They whispered, "Do you have any food? Anything to share? A snack, maybe?" Some people shrugged. Others looked sad. They had come so far, but no one had brought enough to feed so many. Andrew, another disciple of Jesus who happened to be Simon Peter's brother, tugged on Philip's sleeve. "I think I found someone," he said. They looked down, and there stood a small boy, holding a little basket. Inside it were 5 small loaves of bread and 2 tiny fish. Andrew scratched his head. "But what good is this, for a crowd this big?" Jesus smiled when he saw the boy, and then he said to him, "Thank you for sharing." Then he looked out at the people and said, "Have everyone sit down in groups." The disciples obeyed. They walked through the crowd, organizing families and friends into small circles on the grass. The people looked around, confused. "There's no food. Why are we sitting? Is Jesus going to teach more? What's going on?" They didn't know it yet, but they were about to witness a miracle. The small boy with the basket looked up at Jesus with wide, curious eyes. He didn't have much. All he had was just 5 small loaves of barley bread and 2 little fish that his mother had packed for him to eat that day. But when the disciples asked, "Would you share your food with Jesus?" he didn't say, "No, it's mine," or "It's not enough." Instead, he smiled and nodded. "Of course," he said. "You can have it." Andrew held up the tiny basket and whispered to Jesus, "Here's what we found, but it's not much." Jesus took the basket in his hands. He didn't laugh. He didn't sigh. He didn't say, "That's not enough." He simply looked at the bread and the fish, then looked up at the sky and smiled. Jesus sat down on a rock, lifted the basket high, and prayed out loud, "Thank you, Father, for this food. Thank you for what you are about to do." The disciples watched in silence. The crowd leaned in, wondering, what would happen next? Would Jesus break the bread and give everyone just a tiny crumb? Would he send them home with a small bite in their hands? No one knew except Jesus, because he knew that little things can become big miracles in God's hands. Jesus broke 1 loaf in half, then gave it to a disciple. He broke another, gave it to another disciple. Then the fish, he broke them too. And something amazing happened. The more he broke the bread and fish, the more there was to give. 1 basket became 2, then 4, then 10, then 20. The disciples' hands were full of food and they still had more to share. They ran back into the crowd. Each person received a full piece of bread. Each family got plenty of fish. The children giggled, the parents smiled, and everyone ate until their tummies were full. The little boy watched in wonder. His tiny lunch was now feeding thousands of people, and still, there was more. A more than enough, more than they ever expected. Because when you put small things in the hands of Jesus, they grow. All across the grassy hillside, people were eating and laughing. Children bit into soft, warm bread. Mothers fed babies little pieces of fish. Fathers smiled, shaking their heads in amazement. "Where did all this food come from?" they whispered. "I saw him start with just 5 loaves and 2 fish, said one man. "It's a miracle," said another. "I've never tasted fish this good," a boy added with a happy grin. No one could explain it, but no one was hungry anymore. Jesus watched with a peaceful smile as his disciples moved from group to group, handing out more food. Every time they reached into a basket, there was still more inside. Not once did a basket run empty. Not once did anyone have to go without. Peter laughed with joy. Every time I think it's the last piece, another one appears. John nodded, amazed. This is what it's like when Jesus shares what we give him. It's never too small for him to use. Birds circled above the crowd, wondering where the smells were coming from. They tilted their heads, watching this sea of smiling people and magical bread. Even nature seemed to be amazed. And somewhere in the middle of it all, the boy who had shared his lunch sat with his basket in his lap, and his heart full of joy. He looked around and thought, I'm just a kid, and yet Jesus used my little lunch to feed thousands. Jesus didn't need fancy food. He didn't need a feast or a rich man's kitchen. He just needed someone willing to share. Someone who would say, this is all I have, but you can have it. And when that happened, something ordinary became extraordinary. So what about you, dear listener? What's in your basket? Maybe it's your kind words, maybe your smile, maybe your time, or your tiny gift, or your help to someone who needs it. No matter how small it feels, Jesus can use it to do something amazing. As the sun began to set behind the hills, the people finished their meal. They wiped their mouths, they patted their tummies, and they smiled. Thousands of men, women, and children had all eaten, and there had been no pushing, no fighting, no grumbling, no worry, just peace, laughter, and the kind of joy that fills you up inside and out. Jesus turned to his disciples and said, Now, go and collect the leftovers. We don't want to waste anything. The disciples nodded and grabbed their baskets. They moved through the crowd, picking up every last piece of bread and fish that hadn't been eaten. People handed them extra bites with wide eyes. There's still more? How could that tiny lunch feed all of us and still have food left over? The disciples counted as they gathered. 1 basket, 2, 3. By the time they were done, they had collected 12 full baskets of leftovers. Yes, 12. That's more than they started with. Jesus looked out over the smiling crowd. He knew they would remember this day. The day a little boy's lunch became a meal for over 5,000 people. But he hoped they would also remember something deeper, that God can use even the smallest gift when it's given with a willing heart. The little boy walked home, basket in hand. It wasn't full of food anymore, but it was full of something better, joy. He didn't give because he was rich. He didn't give because someone made him. He gave because he trusted Jesus. And look at the miracle that happened. So if you ever think you're too small to help, or that what you have doesn't matter, think of this story. Think of 5 loaves, 2 fish, and 1 small heart willing to share, because when you put what you have in God's hands, He multiplies it into something beautiful. Wasn't that amazing? Just 5 loaves and 2 little fish fed thousands of people, and there were even leftovers. If you enjoyed this miracle story, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, and don't forget to click subscribe so you never miss another exciting Bible story adventure like this one. There are lots of other wonderful Bible stories and videos lined up for you to see on this channel. Go ahead and click the next video, and I'll see you there.